I found out my marriage was already over because my friends invited me to dinner. That sounds dramatic, but that's how it happened. A month before that night, my life looked painfully ordinary. I had a wife, Lena. We had been together 11 years, married for 7. We had a daughter who still left socks everywhere, and thought I could fix anything with duct tape. I worked too much, came home tired, fell asleep with the TV on. Normal. Boring. Safe. My old squad from college had been texting more than usual. At first I barely noticed. Stupid memes. You alive? Messages, random photos from 10 years ago. Then one of them, Marco, said they needed a person for a family dinner. That was the exact wording. I laughed and asked if somebody had cancelled. He wrote back, "No. We want you there." I almost said no. Lena had been distant for weeks. Quiet in a way that made the house feel colder. I thought staying home would help. I had no idea that dinner would be the first time I realized people had been remembering me one by one while I was busy losing everything. Looking back, I can see the cracks. At the time I called them stress. Lena had started protecting her phone like it was a second heartbeat. She used to leave it on the kitchen counter while she showered. Suddenly it lived face down beside her, even when she slept. I noticed because small things become loud when you love someone. She was also staying late at work. New project, new client, new deadlines. I believed every word because that's what marriage teaches you. Trust first. Ask questions later. The truth is, I was exhausted too. My mother had been sick that year. I was driving her to appointments, trying to keep work steady, trying to be present for our daughter. Lena told me I seemed distracted. She wasn't wrong. Sometimes I'd come downstairs at midnight and find her sitting in the dark, staring at nothing. "Everything okay?" I'd ask. "Just tired." And I accepted it. I even blamed myself. Maybe I was becoming dull. Maybe she needed more from me. Maybe marriages just turn quiet after enough years. I ignored the feeling in my stomach because I thought love meant refusing to be suspicious. There was one moment I still replay. About 3 weeks before that dinner, Lena got a message while she was making coffee. Her phone lit up. I wasn't trying to snoop. I just happened to look. Can't stop thinking about last night. That was all I saw. She moved so fast she almost dropped the mug. "Who's that?" I asked. "A coworker. She's drunk. Ignore it." She laughed when she said it, but it landed wrong. Too fast. Too practiced. I remember standing there holding my daughter's lunchbox, feeling stupid for feeling hurt. I wanted to push harder. Instead I said, "Okay." That was my pattern. I would feel the alarm in my chest, then talk myself out of it. We had history. A child. Shared rent, shared grief, shared birthdays, shared routines. People don't throw that away over one strange text. But something changed after that. I started noticing the gaps. She stopped touching me casually. No hand on my shoulder. No leaning against me in bed. She became polite. And polite can be colder than anger. The night of the dinner felt strange before I even left. Lena barely looked up when I said I was going out. "With the old gang?" she asked. "Yeah. Have fun." That was it. No questions. No teasing. No. "Tell Marco I said hi." Nothing. I drove across town feeling guilty for being relieved to leave the house. The dinner was at Marco's place. I expected a few beers and old stories. Instead, when I walked in, I froze. Everybody was there. Marco. Jess. Adam. Priya. Their spouses. Their kids. Even Evan, who lived 3 states away. For a second I honestly thought somebody had died and no one had told me. "What is this?" I said. Marco hugged me so hard it hurt. "Sit down first." I laughed because I was nervous. "Why are you all looking at me like that?" Jess touched my arm. We missed you. That hit harder than it should have. Then I realized something else. They weren't surprised by how tired I looked. They already knew. I just didn't know what they knew yet. Dinner was weirdly gentle. Nobody jumped into anything. They just kept me there. Marco kept filling my plate. Priya kept asking about my daughter. Adam started telling old stories about college until I was laughing hard enough to forget that everyone was watching me. And then Jess asked, very quietly, "How are things at home?" It sounds harmless. It wasn't. The room went still. I looked around and suddenly understood. They hadn't invited me because they needed a guest. They had invited me because they were worried. "What's going on?" I asked. Nobody answered. Marco rubbed his face. "Man, we didn't know how to tell you." My stomach dropped so hard I thought I might throw up. "Tell me what?" Jess looked like she wanted to cry. "Lena's been seeing someone." I actually laughed. Not because it was funny. Because my brain rejected it. No. "No, that's not. Who told you that?" Adam said. "I saw them." "Who?" He swallowed. "Your brother." And just like that, the floor disappeared. I don't remember standing up. I just remember hearing my own voice, louder than I expected. "What did you just say?" Adam looked sick. "I saw them together twice. Once outside that restaurant near the river. Once in his car." "My brother Daniel?" He nodded. "No." I kept saying it. "No. No. No." My ears were ringing. My hands were numb. I felt hot and cold at the same time. Jess came closer. "We didn't want to believe it either." "How long?" Nobody answered immediately. That silence told me enough. "How long?" Marco finally said. "A few months. Maybe more." I sat down because my knees stopped working. Daniel and I grew up sharing a bedroom. He taught me how to ride a bike. He was best man at my wedding. He held my daughter in the hospital the day she was born. I kept thinking they had to be mistaken. A misunderstanding. A bad angle. A coincidence. Then Priya said the thing that split me open. She kissed him first. I threw up in Marco's bathroom. I drove home like a drunk man even though I hadn't touched alcohol. The whole way I kept hoping to arrive and find some stupid explanation waiting for me. Lena was in the living room when I walked in. TV on. Lights low. "You're back early." I stared at her. "Are you sleeping with Daniel?" No build-up. No careful approach. Just that. She went white. For 3 seconds neither of us moved. Then she said, "Who told you?" That was the moment I knew it was true. Not denial. Not anger. Not confusion. Just, "Who told you?" I remember laughing again. That ugly shocked laugh. "You could have said no." She started crying immediately. "It's not what you think." I snapped. "Then tell me what I'm supposed to think." She kept saying my name. Over and over. I was shaking so badly I had to grip the back of a chair. "How long?" "Please sit down." "How long?" Her face collapsed. 8 months. 8 months. Almost a year of dinners, birthdays, school pickups, family photos. 8 months of looking me in the eye. I called Daniel. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Hey. Come here." "Now." He knew. I heard it in the silence. He arrived 20 minutes later. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Lena was crying. I was pacing. My daughter was asleep upstairs, and that somehow made the whole thing more horrifying. Our child was 20 feet away while her parents were exploding. Daniel said, "I never meant for this to happen." I nearly hit him. "What does that even mean?" He started talking about how it began after my mother got sick. He said Lena felt alone. He said I was emotionally gone. He said they connected while helping with family stuff. Every word made me sicker. "So you helped by sleeping with my wife?" He cried too. Which somehow made me angrier. Lena said, I still love you. I turned to her. You don't do this to someone you love. Then she said something I still hear in my head. I didn't mean to fall in love with him. That hurt more than the sex. The worst part wasn't rage. It was humiliation. My friends knew before I did. My wife knew. My brother knew. Maybe half the world knew. I was the last person standing in my own life. For the next few days I barely slept. I kept functioning because our daughter still needed breakfast, homework help, clean clothes. Kids don't pause because your heart detonates. My mother called and asked why I sounded strange. I lied. I couldn't tell her both her sons had just become strangers to each other. Lena kept trying to talk. Sometimes she'd say it was a mistake. Sometimes she'd say it had become real. Those are two very different things. I stopped understanding who she was. At night I would sit in the kitchen after everyone slept and replay years of memories, trying to figure out which ones were still true. Anniversaries. Vacations. The day Daniel gave a toast at our wedding. Every memory felt contaminated. I kept asking myself the same stupid question. What did I miss? And the answer was unbearable. Almost everything. The pressure started immediately. My father called first. Don't make this bigger than it already is. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Bigger? He's still your brother. That sentence broke something in me. Nobody asked how I was sleeping. Nobody asked how I was eating. Everybody wanted damage control. My aunt said families survive worse. My cousin said I should think of my daughter. As if I wasn't already. As if every breath I took wasn't for her. Daniel texted me paragraphs about shame, regret, confusion. I deleted every message unread after the first few. Lena wanted therapy. Part of me wanted to scream yes because I loved her. That was the disgusting truth. Even after all of it, I loved her. Love doesn't die on command. But another part of me couldn't survive hearing her explain how she, accidentally, loved my brother for 8 months. People think betrayal creates clarity. It doesn't. It creates noise. And every voice inside you says something different. And why daughter noticed before we said anything. Children always do. One morning she asked why Mom wasn't sleeping in our room anymore. I told her Mom and Dad were having grown-up problems. She nodded like she understood, then asked if it was because I looked sad all the time. That nearly destroyed me. We eventually told her we were taking space. No details. No poison. She didn't deserve to carry adult sins. But the house changed immediately. Meals got quieter. Doors closed more softly. Even cartoons felt too loud. I started losing weight. I stopped answering calls. At work I'd stare at emails for 20 minutes without reading them. One afternoon I saw Daniel's name pop up in a family group chat and had a full panic attack in my car. That was when I realized this wasn't just heartbreak anymore. It had moved into my body. My hands shook all the time. I couldn't trust my memory. I couldn't trust my instincts. And worst of all, I couldn't trust the version of myself who had believed them both. Lena moved into a rental nearby after 6 weeks. Not because we had closure. Because living together had become unbearable. We had one last real conversation before she left. She sat at the kitchen table and said, "I never wanted to hurt you." I said, "Then why didn't you stop?" She cried so hard she couldn't speak for a minute. "I thought I would. Every time." That answer was honest, and somehow that made it crueler. Then I asked the question I'd been avoiding. "Did you love him?" She looked at me for a long time. "Yes." I felt physically cold. "And do you love me?" Another silence. "Yes." I almost laughed. 2 yes. That was the whole tragedy. I told her love without loyalty becomes something poisonous. She packed 2 bags and left. I stood at the window watching her drive away, thinking that 11 years of a life can disappear so quietly it feels unreal. No screaming. No slammed doors. Just absence. Daniel and I haven't spoken in almost 2 years. he tried at first. Birthday texts. Apologies. One voicemail where he sounded like he'd been crying. I couldn't do it. People keep asking whether I hate him. That's too simple. I miss him. That's the ugly part nobody understands. I hate what he did. I hate what he took. But sometimes I'll hear an old song or smell my father's garage, and suddenly I remember we were kids together. That grief is different. It's not romantic. It's almost worse. Lena and I co-parent. We're polite. Efficient. Civil. Sometimes I catch myself looking at her hands while we talk, remembering how familiar they once felt. She and Daniel are not together anymore. Apparently whatever they thought they were building collapsed under the weight of what it cost. That didn't make me feel better. I thought it would. It didn't. Pain doesn't become justice just because someone else ends up miserable too. That dinner with my friends still sits in my mind. At first I thought it was the night my life broke apart. Now I think it was the night I learned I hadn't disappeared. For months I had been shrinking. Work, family illness, marriage, routine. I had become a useful machine. Someone who handled things. My friends saw it before I did. They reached out one by one. The memes. The random messages. The, "You alive?" They weren't casual. They were checking whether I was still in there. And when the truth got too big, they made a place for me at a table. Not to destroy me. To keep me from finding out alone. I cried about that later. Not the betrayal. That. Being remembered. Being held up when I didn't know I was falling. There are nights when I still sit in my kitchen after my daughter goes to sleep and think about that room full of people watching me carefully, waiting for the moment I would need them. They were right. I did doubt. I wish I could end this with wisdom. I can't. I still don't fully understand what happened. I still catch myself rereading old messages, looking for the first crack. I still wonder whether there was one moment that could have saved us. Maybe there wasn't. The hardest thing I've learned is that betrayal doesn't erase love. That would be easier. Sometimes I loved Lena while hating what she did. Sometimes I missed my brother while imagining never seeing him again. Human beings are ugly and complicated like that. I'm better now in practical ways. I sleep more. I laugh more. My daughter and I have our own routines. Life has shape again. But there's a scar where certainty used to live. If anyone reading this has that quiet feeling that something is wrong, don't silence it because you're afraid of looking paranoid. I did. And I lost almost a year of truth. What stays with me most is simple. The people who broke me were family. The people who caught me were too.